Emily was fortunate to have a devoted husband who cherished her very much. 9 months after the wedding, a daughter came into their lives. David had amazing abilities and was able to manage all household chores on his own. Many neighbors turned to him for help, and he was always ready to lend a helping hand. What kind of reward could one expect in their village? A bottle of whiskey as a thank you, of course, they would say. David found it hard to refuse such offers, and in time he began to become addicted to drink. At first, Emily was strongly opposed to this and made efforts to prevent her husband from succumbing to alcoholism. But over time, she accepted the fact that the situation is not subject to her influence. Gradually, David took up residence in the garage. Emily visited him from time to time, tidying up, doing his laundry, and leaving him food every day. Regardless of the circumstances, he remained her family, and she couldn't bring herself to sever all ties with him. "How's your drunken boyfriend doing?" Her friend Claire, who wasn't usually known for her talkative nature, asked. "In the garage drinking," Emily replied with a sigh, and headed to the kitchen to fetch some homemade wine and glasses. Every Sunday, the two women got together to discuss a variety of topics. "You need to find a man, Emily," Claire said firmly. "Otherwise, you'll be stuck here, neither a widow nor a wife." Time passed, and Emily's daughter grew up. Emily became a mother-in-law, and after the wedding, the newlyweds moved to the city, renting an apartment. Emily fully felt the weight of loneliness. Evenings at the house became stifling, and she waited for the weekend to visit her daughter. "Hop in. I'll give you a ride." A car pulled up beside her, inside of which sat Adam, the man Claire had been dating. And behind the wheel sat his son, Jack. "Get in, Aunt Emily," he repeated. "Oh, thank you, Jack." "That's so kind of you," Emily said, climbing into the warm car and glad she wouldn't have to wait for the bus. She was Jack's godmother, and he was growing up before her eyes. But she hadn't seen him lately. Jack had attended a regional boarding school for gifted children in high school, and then gone to a metropolitan university and rarely came home. Emily hadn't seen him in years, and looking at him, she couldn't believe he was the same handsome boy who had once sat on her lap. "You've grown and changed so much." "You're all grown up now." "Well, yes." Jack smiled, "but you haven't changed a bit." "Time hasn't touched you. You're still as beautiful as ever." "My goodness, Jack, you've turned into such a charmer." "Who taught you how to flatter women like that?" Emily laughed, though she was secretly pleased. It was obvious that Emily was overwhelmed by Jack's transformation into a man. The emotions in her soul were not subsiding quickly. When Claire heard Emily praise her son, she practically glowed. Jack was her pride and joy, her future. Her only concern was that he might marry the right girl for him. She had often complained to Emily that all the girls these days were no match for her son. "Does he have someone?" asked Emily curiously. "No one here is suitable for him," Claire replied firmly. "By the way, Jack goes into town a lot, so if you ever need a ride with your daughter, just let me know. He'll give you a ride with your bags." Emily's heart raced. After this meeting, she began to see Jack in a different light, and certainly not in a motherly one. She hated herself for it, but she couldn't help it. Every time she got into his car, she swore she'd be serious and not say anything inappropriate. But Jack was always so charming, making jokes and showering her with compliments. Emily put a bottle of wine on the table. "I'll be visiting soon," Jack said one evening. Claire often came to Emily's house to complain about Jack. She couldn't understand what was going on with her son. He kept disappearing and wouldn't talk to her. She was sure he had fallen into bad company. "Look at you," Claire muttered one day. "I'm drowning in problems, and you're shining like a star." Emily had indeed been shining lately, and if Claire hadn't been so tense, she would have noticed Emily fidgeting awkwardly and blushing at some points. Eventually, the affair came to light. Sarah, the village gossip, saw Emily and Jack together at a cafe in town. Within hours, the whole village knew about it. That same night, Claire stormed into Emily's house in a rage. A heated argument ensued, waking even Emily's husband, who in a drunken stupor tried to break up the fight. The village discussed the scandal for months. Jack packed his things and left for the city. He was even ready to marry Emily. "Jack, you have to understand. I have a husband," Emily pleaded with him. "You're young, handsome, and you have your whole life ahead of you. I'm going to retire soon. I don't want people calling you my son." Emily tolerated the rumors and the bound and shamed. Ironically, it was tragedy that allowed her to distract herself from thoughts of Jack. Her husband had a stroke, which forced her to devote herself to caring for him. He lived for another 5 years before passing away, during which time Emily was comforted by her grandchildren. In the meantime, Jack completed his university studies, took a job overseas, and eventually married. Nevertheless, he always remembered Emily. Every year on her birthday, she received a bouquet of flowers from him